Hi, and welcome to another episode of Hot Takes with me, the Silver Fox. Police investigating the SMP finances are now looking deeply into their Amazon Prime account. It seems that there could be up to 1,000 cases of fraud, potentially. Why would the SMP use an Amazon Prime account to buy all these little things over the years, knowing it could be so easily investigated? And why would they use party funds designated for a referendum to do it? Either they don't care, or they're unaware of the consequences of using this money in such a way. It could quite easily be either. They either are criminal or they are incompetent. You couldn't rule out either, could you? Anyway, we'll have a look at this piece and see what the latest news on this investigation is. They really are fools, aren't they? Here goes. So, SMP Funds probe examines Amazon shopping account and finds 1,000 allegations of fraud. The Sunday Mail can reveal detectives are focusing on an Amazon account used to buy everyday items, i.e. things that were not part of that money set aside for an independence referendum campaign. And if that's the case, then it most definitely is fraud, because that money was gained particularly for that purpose. That's what they told people. So they could be, they could well be fraud now. I think they've got to the point where that fraud is almost provable, maybe. Police are investigating more than 1,000 alleged instances of fraud as part of their huge probe into SMP finances. The Sunday Mail can reveal that detectives are focusing on an Amazon account used to buy everyday items which could be linked to party funds. Police are conducting a second round of interviews of several people who've already been spoken to as witnesses. So they're going to be re-interviewing them now they've got other information, looking at the things they've said the first time and questioning them as to the differences between what they said and what has turned out to be the reality. And that should make for a squirming session of various people sitting in that chair opposite detectives. And boy, would you love to be a fly on the wall in that room. And yet, all this, they're re-interviewing some witnesses. They have yet to interview Sturgeon. We can only presume that it's because they're under orders not to. Because any half-decent, even an inept policeman would surely have, worked out by now that Sturgeon needs to be questioned. In fact, all three of them needed to be arrested and questioned at the same time. This whole police investigation needs to be investigated, I think, and heads definitely need to roll. Anyway, we can also reveal that £110,000 motorhome seized by the police from the driveway of former First Minister Nicola Sturgeon's mother-in-law, why can't they just say Peter's mother, was purchased from the Irwin-Heimer Centre Travel World near Birmingham before driven 300 miles to Dunfermline by two men in early 2020. For some reason, it's impossible, apparently, to buy a motorhome in Scotland. Who knows why? Perhaps they thought if they bought it in England it would be harder to trace, in which case they really are fools, aren't they? Right now, just as an aside on this front, but Chapman, who was the treasurer for about 20 minutes, said that he didn't know about the motorhome. Nobody informed him. And not that Chapman is in any way a wonderful person or a great MP or anything like that, but I do believe him that he didn't know. I think it's quite right. I mean, the National Executive Committee didn't know, so why the hell should the treasurer? So they kept that one a secret. Anyway, there are over 1,000 individual items that the police are looking at as potential instances of fraud and go back a number of years. Goods range from quite expensive items to relatively cheap everyday products. But the point is that all of these things together could add up to a very serious criminal allegation. Companies and political parties cannot just spend money any way they want. There are rules about how people are paid, and there are obviously huge tax implications as well. Everything needs to be properly accounted for legally, and that is what police are looking at here. It's an ongoing inquiry. Just because there hasn't been any more arrest doesn't mean nothing is happening. Quite the opposite is true. Well, there's been certain arrests that certainly haven't been made, as we know, and they should have done, so it's very odd that they haven't. But, as they keep looking, I think we're gathering momentum. It's becoming clear that there's an awful lot going on. that will, I think, it will end up with charges. Even the police, paid for and controlled by the SNP as they are, will find it hard now not to actually get this sorted and bear down on someone. It's just a question of who will be the fall guy, who is going to be the one that takes the fall for all that's going on. Because you guarantee it probably won't be Sturgeon. They said a team of specialist officers are working on this full time, going through all the accounts and matching up entries with what has been paid for via SNP bank accounts, and then looking where individual items that have been purchased have ultimately ended up. Officers are now going to be back to several people they spoke to as witnesses and re-interviewing them, armed with the evidence that has been collected. And then you're going to get these people in that room, re-interview them, squeaky bum time, say, look, you told us this, now we have this. Can you explain why you lied in your original statement? And then they'll just sit there, squirm and go, well, because they do, don't they? It emerged last week that police consulted the NCA, the National Crime Agency, often dubbed Britain's FBI, about Operation Branch Force. The London-based crime-fighting unit specialises in serious organised crime and money laundering across the UK. And I think it's very telling that they were questioning them about the SNP. Serious crime and money laundering. Yes, I think so too. It follows complaints that 600,000 of donations, which were supposed to be ring-fenced for a future independence referendum, had disappeared. Yes, didn't it, though? Didn't it? 2 months later, the SNP's chief executive, Peter Murrell, gave the party £107,620 interest-free loan, which was not disclosed to the Electoral Commission until a year later. Again, breaking rules. I think it's any donation over £1,500 has to be declared, which is why they've called it a loan, because that way it doesn't count as a donation. But even so, not telling the commission that this has come in, it's a clear breach, if not to the letter of the law, but certainly to the spirit of the law, and that is just not done. That alone should disbar the SNP from any kind of power. Murrell was forced to resign after lying to the Sunday Mail about party membership numbers. And last month, he and the party's ex-treasurer, Colin Beattie, were arrested and questioned as suspects in the fraud probe before being released without charge. Sturgeon, who has not yet been questioned by police, has pledged to fully cooperate with them. But she won't fully cooperate because that would involve telling the truth, and there's no way that is going to happen. The Glasgow home she shares with Murrell was searched for 2 days at the same time as officers raided SNP headquarters in Edinburgh, removing dozens of boxes of documents. And the same day, police seized a luxury motorhome from outside the home of Murrell's mother in Fife. And the motorhome dealership in Stafford, who sold the vehicle, refused to comment. An Irwin-Heimer Trent Centre dealership spokesman said, unfortunately, due to customer confidentiality, we're unable to assist with this inquiry. I bet when the police turn up, they'll be all too ready to assist with this inquiry. When they're told if they don't answer questions, they're going to be arrested, taken down the station, and, it's going to be, we don't owe these people any kind of loyalty whatsoever, spills beans. The latest revelations come after we told how money left to the SNP in Wales was being investigated, as well as the purchase of everything from pots and pans to luxury pens, jewellery and other household items, including a fridge freezer. Police are also seeking burner phones and SIM cards. Burner phones and SIM cards immediately says to you, criminal, doesn't it? Absolutely. They are an organised crime outfit, really. They're just criminals, allegedly. The bequests are being investigated alongside the whereabouts of the 600,000 donated to ring-fenced referendum funds. About 400,000 of that money is understood to have been of particular interest to detectives. More than $1 million in cash gifts has been given to the party by supporters, late supporters, since 2021. And Scottish Labour's Deputy Leader Jackie Bailey said, the plot thickens and thickens. This investigation goes to show how pervasive the culture of cover-up is at the heart of the SNP. Scotland deserves so much better than intrigue and sleaze from them. Scottish Conservative Party Craig Hoy said the sheer number of alleged offences being investigated here is what you might expect from a probe into an organised crime syndicate, not a political party. And it's no wonder Police Scotland investigation is taking so long. Everyone who was questioned in relation to this has a duty to cooperate fully with police so they can get to the bottom of this increasingly murky SNP scandal. Scandalous! It really is. The more this comes out, the more information revealed, the more we read, see and hear about the goings on and doings of the SNP, the more you realise they are literally a crime cartel operating at every level across the whole of the Scottish establishment. It is absolutely appalling in a modern day and age, in a Scotland that calls itself a democracy, that this bunch of criminals are given so much power. I shall round off and come up. It's just getting murkier and murkier. And now with all these purchases, potentially, anyway, from Amazon, all of them coming out of central funds, out of funds that they said and they demanded from people on the basis that they'd be ring-fenced and used for one purpose only. And now they're buying all these things from Amazon with that money. It is clearly fraud. It is clearly embezzlement. There is clearly a lot going on under the surface that needs to come out. They've always hidden the truth, but the truth always comes out in the end. And once they start threatening a few long-term jail sentences, you'll find that certain people will not be loyal. Will not. You know that this loyalty will not extend to somebody doing 10 years in prison, for example. They will ultimately say and point the finger and give evidence to clear themselves, get themselves out of that massive hole. And so I think the truth will come out. I think it is clear that the upper echelons of this party are running it basically as a criminal organisation. It's just too big, and somebody needs to go to jail. And as I say, we don't know who the fall guy will be. Personally, I would love Sturgeon to go to jail, and I'm sure most people watching this video would, but I think it's going to be very unlikely. I think Colin Beattie, though, is the one that's seriously worried today. He needs to run off down the station and just make a deal. Get his solicitor, go there and say, I don't want to do a day in jail, I'll tell you everything. Anyway, I shall round off there. Thank you very much for watching. If you like what you see here on the channel, hit that subscribe button, ring that bell, leave a like, leave a comment, please share the video. And until next time, stay safe, stay well, don't use other people's money, and goodbye.